What's up guys, Intellitech Mobile, and today we're going to be doing a review on this fat bastard. This is the PlayStation 3, specifically the backwards compatible model. Now this particular one is the 80GB model, which was the version that replaced the 60GB, or I guess replaced, I think it kept it around for a bit longer. But this is the second of the two iterations of PS2 compatible PlayStation 3s. This is the one where they got rid of the Emotion engine and put in PS2 emulation. Now it's worth noting that PS1 emulation is the case in every PS3, as every PS3 can play PS1 games, even non-backwards compatible models. When people refer to a backwards compatible PS3, they're referring to PlayStation 2 compatibility, of which this machine does have. Now, someone on Facebook Marketplace just purchased this for $239, so I included it with a bunch of games. Basically, I lost a bunch of my cases for my entire PS3 collection, and it was very minimal, and I didn't have that many controllers, so I decided to just sell everything off as a lot and start over. So that's what I did. This is the PlayStation 3 that someone in North Carolina will be getting in just a few days. I'll ship it out as soon as I'm done with this video. But in the meantime, we'll go ahead and do a quick overview of this machine before it leaves the studio. So, I acquired this from GameStop of all places because at the time when GameStop was liquidating PS3s, they were very discernible about which models you got. It did not matter. Just every PS3 was pretty much the same price, and you just got whatever. So I remember asking my local GameStop what PS3s they had in stock, and this is, well, the only one they had. And to my surprise, it was a backwards compatible model because I saw that it had the card slots. It is missing the cover for the card slots, but it does have the card slots and it does have some sort of cover. So we have compact flash, SD, mini SD, and memory stick pro. And we can see how very reflective the finish of the PS3 is. So we've got 4 USB ports on the front, which is the easiest way to discern a backwards compatible PS3, as every PS3 that is not backwards compatible only has 2 USB ports, like for example this 160 gig PS3 that I just picked up. You also notice that this particular variant has a silver trim, whereas the backwards compatible PS3, at least this model, has a reflective chrome trim. Now the 20 gigs had a black trim. Those aren't too easy to find, but they do exist. So beyond that, this is a standard PS3 with the biggest difference being the fact that it plays PlayStation 2 games. Although it is worth noting that the reason why I'm selling this is because, to tell you the truth, I never used the PS2 compatibility on the PS3 because, well, I already have an actual PS2 and one that's always hooked up. So I personally never really utilized the backwards compatibility to its full potential, although it was there. So considering how rare these units are nowadays, especially in good working condition, this to me just seemed like an obvious way to make money. Now I will eventually get one of these again for the studio, hopefully one with this piece in good shape. But to be honest, the rest of this PS3 is in pretty much mint condition. So yeah, someone's hopefully going to be very happy with this. And you can tell I did spray some Febreze on my living room, and some of it kind of got onto this piece right here. So there's a bit of markings, but I'll wipe this down once I'm all done, and I'll dust it out with some duster before I ship it off to the customer. So, of course, the fat PS3 has the swivelable logo, which is very good because in my setup, I personally have it standing up. That's how I elect to have my PS3 in my setup. So I just have access to everything. We've got the eject button right here, and above it we've got the power button and the Sony logo. Underneath on this model we've got 4 USB ports. On later models it's just 2, and we've got some cooling vents and that sort of stuff. So one thing I did notice is that there actually are cooling vents right here on this unit, whereas on the later models they actually removed those cooling vents. Not sure why, but they decided to do that for some reason. Now these 80 gigs thankfully are a lot more reliable, and they fixed a lot of the yellow light of death issues that happened with the 60 gigs. The 60 gigs are known to be very unreliable, much in a similar fashion to the early Xbox 360s. Now, while PS3 yellow lights of death are not as common with the launch models as the red ring of death is with launch model 360s, The bad part about PS3s is that if you are unlucky and your system gets the yellow light of death, your data is pretty much gone. And unless you already had it backed up somewhere else off of the original hard drive, it's rather difficult to get your data off of the machine. And at least that's what I've heard through the grapevine. I haven't actually tested this theory myself, but it generally is a pretty big headache if one of these does die. So if you have the ability to just have a PlayStation 2 in your setup, that's probably going to be the way to go. But this machine is still really cool. It's a very capable beast, and it's definitely one that a lot of people are wanting to have in their collection, especially because Mystic made this point in one of his recent videos, that if you combine one of these backwards compatible PS3s with a PS5, you've got two beasts of machines that cover 5 generations of PlayStation titles, which is pretty cool. This machine also makes a good mirror. You can see my hands reflecting in this, which is very nice. So I can kind of do the review without even you seeing my hands, by you just seeing the reflections of my hands in the glossy finish of the PlayStation 3. This finish is pretty much identical to half of what you would see on launch Xbox One and launch PS4, the launch Wii U's, or just Wii U's in general, and of course the 250 gigabyte launch version of the Xbox 360S. As well as the 360E, again, half of that design as well, have this glossy finish, which is very prone to scratching, very prone to fingerprints, although scratching is a lot more of a concern, because fingerprints you can just wipe off, scratches you can't. And yeah, so not really nice, not a big fan of that, although they did fix that, not only with the PS3 Slim, but if you live in a country where you were lucky enough to get the silver color scheme, that also fixed that problem as well. And I will eventually get a silver PlayStation 3 in this color because it looks very nice, although you would have to import one from Japan. And I'm not exactly sure on its compatibility with US systems. I do know that you can use one and it plays PS3 games, but I will eventually get one to actually test and see exactly what you do and don't get from using a Japanese PS3 in the States. So if you want to see that video whenever it eventually comes out, then definitely subscribe to Intellitech Mobile, and you'll see that when it drops, especially if you hit the bell. So for those of you that had the PlayStation 3, myself included, one of the biggest things about this particular variant of the PS3 is not only the fact that it plays PS2 games, but also the fact that it cleans them up pretty well. And you actually do get improved resolution and overall just a better experience than you get on the PS2, especially since the PS2 is one of the worst 6th generation consoles in terms of connecting to a modern TV. Yes, you can use component on PS2 and even HDMI adapters, but compared to the Xbox and even the Dreamcast and the GameCube with their optimal cables, the PS2 looks like crap. And that's not very good, and definitely kind of ruins the PS2 experience on a modern TV. But if you've got one of these, then you're pretty much set. And they did make a memory card adapter that would allow you to use your memory cards on your PS3, but those are incredibly rare and sought after, and I didn't even realize they exist. I didn't even realize they existed until I saw someone mention it in a video. So otherwise, you just create an internal memory card on the hard drive, which this is the 80 gigabyte model, but it's worth noting that you can upgrade the hard drives. But if you're looking for one with a stock hard drive in it, you're trying to find a backwards compatible one, you want an 80 gig, and you want to make sure they actually have pictures of it, because I've seen some sneaky sellers stick 80 and 60 gigabyte hard drives in much newer PS3s to trick people into thinking that it's backwards compatible without outright saying it, so that way they can sell someone on a false promise that, or on a false assumption that they didn't make. So you need to know that if your PS3 has 2 USB ports, it's not backwards compatible. And again, we're referring to PS2 compatibility. If it has 4 USB ports, it is backwards compatible. This particular PlayStation 3, as you can see right here, was manufactured in June of 2008, which is pretty interesting because both of these PS3s are from 2008. So this one's from June 2008, and this particular one is from November of 2008. So both of my PS3s are from 2008, but we can tell there's a pretty big difference in the compatibility between these two. So year is also not a good way to tell the difference between the PS3 models. If you can see that the card slots, or if you see the 3 dots on the little cover right here, and if you see the 4 USB ports, you've got a backwards compatible model. Now my model, underneath all the scratches, you can see mine is a model number CECHE01. And then if I compare this to my non-backwards compatible that I just bought like 10 minutes ago, this is a model number CECHP01. And of course these are both NTSC US American PS3s. Did I just scratch my table? I really hope I didn't just scratch my table. So yeah, that's the PS3 backwards compatible. Now there isn't much to say. I'm not really going to show gameplay or anything like that because I just don't have the time, and I don't have my capture card set up or anything like that. But this is just a basic overview of my 80 gigabyte PS3 before I send it off to the customer. So that's that. This is my backwards compatible PlayStation 3 80 gigabyte model, which will soon no longer be in my possession. One other little fun fact is that the I/O is set up a little bit differently on the backwards compatible versus the non-backwards compatible. Also, the non-backwards compatible is missing another vent right up here. There's a little vent right here that doesn't exist, whereas on this one, it does. So it's just another weird little thing right there that I don't know why they would do that. Even if it's not necessary, I don't understand why they would block more vents. You'd think that more cooling would be better, but who knows. So you can tell they did obviously update the case design a little bit as a result, and we can also see all the ports on the backwards compatible are all the way over on this side, whereas on this one they're more reorganized and they're over on this side. The power ports are the same, and they both have a main power supply switch. Of course, both of these have internal power supplies, as you would expect. So that's that. So this was Intellitech Mobile with my quick overview of my 80 gigabyte PS3 and comparing it to my new 160 gig that I just picked up. And that particular machine, this particular 160, I'll do a separate video on after I've used it for a bit, played some games on it, and see how well it runs. And hopefully that means that the guy that sold this to me hopefully did not scam me, which he is known to do. So let's hope that that's not the case. So yeah, this is Intellitech Mobile signing out with a video on my PlayStation 3. Hi, Boot. And yeah, this is the 80 gig. Let me know if you have one of these. Let me know if you have any backwards compatible PS3. Let me know what model you have, what you think of it, and what you would like to see a video on next. So, this is Intellitech Mobile signing out. I'll see you guys in the next video, and I hope you all have a good one. Peace. I'm going to go ahead and wipe this down, clean it up, dust it out, pack it up, and ship it off to the customer. Let's hope they enjoy it.